Welcome to the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about a very difficult situation. Your son or daughter got cut. Now what? Now what do they do? Now what do you do? How do you help them through this emotionally challenging situation in their lives where it hurts? Nobody wants to be told you're not good enough. Nobody wants to be told you didn't make it. Nobody wants to be told you don't belong here. So that hurts. And every program's different. There's programs out there, and we're talking about the whole spectrum from second grade through 12th grade. So there's programs out there that do not cut, and you'll see teams with like 25 kids on it, and it's not as rare as you think. So there are teams that have kids that will never ever see the court, but they didn't want to cut anybody. And there's such a drastic difference between the best player and the worst player on that team, but they don't want to cut anybody because they didn't want to deal with hurt feelings. And maybe it's a private school. Maybe it's an upper class school where there's parents that have money and they don't want their kids to be cut. So for whatever reason, there's programs out there that do not cut. And then there's others that do. And I'm not here to argue about which one of those is better. But in life, not everybody gets the best job. Not everybody gets the prettiest girl or the strongest guy. Not everybody gets to play in the NBA. Not everybody gets to be the number one pick. Not everybody gets a scholarship. So life it can be mean. It can be tough. It can be challenging. It's full of adversity. It's full of challenges. And sports teach a lot of extremely valuable lessons that help you in life. So I know firsthand that there's a lot of employers out there. There's a lot of companies that proactively seek out former athletes for their employment opportunities. Why do they do that? They do that because these people know how to work together. They know how to work in a team. They know how to fight for a common goal. They know how to deal with adversity. They know that they can fight through challenges in grueling situations. They know that they understand cause and effect. The more you put in, the more you get out. So they want former athletes. So what you should want as a parent is to do the best you can to help your son or daughter learn life lessons through sports. And sports are fun. Sports are awesome. It's fun to play. It's fun to compete. It's fun to score. It's fun to stop people. Those challenges shape you in a myriad number of ways that go well above and beyond just what happens on the court. So if your son or daughter got cut, now what? What happened, first of all? Did they come home and tell you? Did you get an email? I know a lot of different programs do it different ways. How did you find out? Did your son or daughter come home and they had to tell you in person? Were there tears? And I'm sorry if this is a bad word, but were they pissed off? Were they angry? How did they react? Because that's very important. If they came home kind of nonchalant and told you and just like, hey, dad, didn't make the team. I'm going to go play video games. If they did that, then it probably doesn't matter a whole lot to them anyway. Or they're doing a good job of camouflaging, but it probably doesn't matter a whole lot to them. So if it doesn't matter to them, and this is a very important point that I want to stress to you as parents, if it doesn't matter to them, it shouldn't matter that much to you. Because if they're amazing, it doesn't mean that you're an amazing parent. If they're amazing at basketball, it doesn't mean that you've done everything correctly. And if they're the opposite of amazing, and some people will say that means that you're not very good, or mean people would say that you suck, right? So if they're not amazing, it also doesn't mean that you're a terrible parent, because this is their path. This is their journey. These are their experiences, and it's for them to learn. Cause and effect. The more you put in, the more you get out. So how did they react? If they didn't really care, then it shouldn't be that important to you, and I'm not sure what more you can do for them. If, on the other hand, they were a little bit upset, either sad or mad, but if they showed emotion and it clearly bothered them, now we're cooking and we can do something with that. Because that can be fuel. That can be fuel that goes into the fire that helps them come back stronger. So the key is asking yourself and remembering, how did they handle it? How did they tell you? What was their mental state? What was their emotional state? Now, if they were angry and they showed emotion, if they were sad and they showed emotion, how did you react? Did you immediately blame the coach? Did you immediately blame the program? Did you immediately start to figure out who you're going to fire off an email to? Were you going to go drive over to the coach's house and yell at him? How did you react? Because if you don't care at all, they're going to feel that, they're going to sense that, and they're going to feel that you don't support them. But it has to be the right level of caring. It has to be the right level of emotion. So it can't be you wanting to go over there and bang down the coach's door, but it also can't just be like you looking over, not even making eye contact as you continue to scroll through social media on your phone, as you listen and just kind of brush it off like, whatever, buddy, not my fault, right? You have to be there for them to help them along this path. So how did you react? And is it what either of you expected? Did you expect this to happen? Did they expect this to happen? Was it a surprise? Or did you kind of know they didn't do a whole lot last summer? They didn't practice at all. I don't remember the last time they picked up a basketball and went out in the driveway. I don't remember the last time they watched a game. So if that's the case, it probably shouldn't have been a huge surprise if your son or daughter plays for a program that makes cuts and they don't practice or work hard at basketball. But if they do, if they're always out there working, if they're always out there doing the best they can, trying hard, if they love the game, they're always watching games on TV, if they were completely invested in doing everything in their power to play basketball for their school team and then still got cut, then you have to try to question what's going on, right? Is the team full of future lottery picks? Did they have a bad attitude? Did they just have a bad day? Did they miss shots that day? Were they a little bit sick? What happened? Why did they not make it? And there's 1,000 different things that could be the cause of that. But I do want to stress that you get what you put in. This is good for them to learn. This is a constant reminder for us as parents that you get what you put in. The harder you work, the more you're going to get out of it. And that applies to everything. So if your son or daughter is really good at math, they're really good at history, they're really good in school, they get good grades, they probably do their homework. They probably study a little bit. And on the flip side of that coin, if and when those grades start slipping, they're probably spending more time playing video games than they are doing their homework. So it's important for them to learn cause and effect. You get what you put in. So let's talk about what they did last summer. Do they play multiple sports? Do they only focus on basketball? Was summer full of just vacation? Do you live in a neighborhood where there's other kids to compete against and play against? Whether that's football in the driveway, whether that's playing catch, whether that's baseball or soccer or lacrosse or basketball, are there other kids that they have a chance to compete with and play with? So what did they do last summer? Did they work on shooting? Did they play AAU? Did they focus on their skills? Did they focus on becoming more explosive? And this is a pretty wide range of questions that applies a little bit differently if we're talking about a sophomore in high school or a third grader. But what did they do last summer? Try to think about that. Because we know as adults, we know that you get what you put in, right? Back to that key phrase, you get what you put in. So last year, I had a phone conversation with a mother who was very distraught. Her son got cut from the team. They were not expecting it. And the kid's got some talent. He has some potential. But he was a little bit silly, a little bit not focused, didn't work as hard as he possibly should. But he had some height and he showed flashes of maybe being good someday down the road. But he got cut. The team said, you're not good enough to be on this team. And the mom was distraught and the kid was distraught. So the mom asked me to talk to the kid at one of our skills clinics. And I spoke to him. We had a really good heart to heart, even though he's a kid, but like kind of a man-to-man type conversation where we're just going to just lay it all on the table. All the cards on the table. We're going to have a good heart-to-heart talk about what happened. And there was some emotion involved. And I sensed and I felt from that moment that he cared. It was important to him. And that's when it sent a signal to me, okay, this kid's going to come back next year. As long as he works, this kid has a chance to come back next year better and have a really good chance to make this team. So what happened to that kid? Let's fast forward. That kid came to all of our skills clinics. That kid consistently worked hard. The kid learned how to be a better listener, showed flashes of being way more disciplined. I'm guessing and assuming that what we taught him, he went home in his driveway, did it over and over and over and worked on it and repeated it and built muscle memory. The mother signed him up for our academy, which is 2 weekly practices that are very intense through the course of April, May, and June. And there was 8 weekends of games, multiple games on the weekends. So 8 weekends of games where he had a chance to compete, to play, to be challenged, to take chances, to learn from his mistakes, to play offense, defense, to go against kids better than him, and to be pushed. And to miss some shots, and to get blocked, and to get scored on, but to learn through that process. So he got extremely valuable playing experience, which we've talked about before. Kids don't get enough of because they don't go to the courts and the playground and the park anymore. But he got tons of playing experience in addition to really good coaching, correction, constructive criticism, and the chance to go back and forth from practice to games and to learn and grow and improve from week to week. So what happened? He started out okay, finished really, really strong. The next year of tryouts came, and guess who made the team? He did. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn because it has more to do with him than anything else, in addition to some really good coaching on our behalf, but it has more to do with him and his mental makeup. but he came back and he made the team, and now he's a starter. So there's some lessons to be learned from that. And you have to be careful, and he has to be careful that he doesn't go back to bad habits and relax and kind of be silly and goofy and just kind of take everything nonchalant. He has to continue to go hard. He has to continue to work. If he wants to climb the ladder, the process is just now kind of getting started for him. But there's some valuable lessons to be learned there where a kid got cut, and this is one example, but a kid got cut, he worked his butt off, he got better, he came back stronger. So I'm asking you to be a little bit old-fashioned because you're a parent, you're older than your child, so you need to be the guiding force that helps them deal with this emotionally. So I'm asking you to be old-fashioned. So back in the day, before technology, when somebody wanted to store some information, they'd get out a pen, piece of paper, they'd write things down. So it's important that your son or daughter makes a plan. They have to make a plan of attack. Here's what happened. I didn't make it. Why? What do I want to do next year? I want to make it. And now let's fill in everything in between. How am I systematically, and you have to help them with this, how am I systematically going to come back stronger next year? I can't keep doing the same things I've been doing. I have to do better. I have to do more. I have to be more efficient. But there has to be a plan of attack. And I would make them, depending on their handwriting, but I would make them write it. Because writing, the process of writing, helps your brain memorize it and you absorb it a little bit more. So make them write it down. And if it's super sloppy, once you're done, make them write it down again. Make them repeat it. That will help them. But the key is to write down a plan of attack. So you would want to have goals. Goal 1, make the team next year. Then you need to have a how. How am I going to do that? I got to beat those other kids that beat me this year, right? How am I going to do that? Was it my ball handling that was weak? Is that why I didn't make the team? Was I out of shape? Was I slow? Did I lose every race? Is that the reason? Was my shot not that good? Was I not able to stop anybody? Was I laughing and goofing off when the coach is talking? So let's figure out why they didn't make it. And that goes back to that initial conversation when they first come home. What happened, right? So let's talk about they didn't make it, why? And then how are we going to fix that? So on this plan, you should write down what they want to do, how they're going to do that. Are they going to shoot 100 shots in the driveway every day? Are they going to make 100 weekend layups? Are they going to do 10 minutes of ball handling every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? There's a bunch of variables here, and there's a bunch of ways that you could make this plan. But it's important that they're invested in the thought process. So you can't just tell them everything to do. You have to help them. It has to be a conversation. There has to be a little bit of banter going back and forth. You have to be the sounding board for them so they can make the plan. It has to be things that are actually possible. So don't let them say things like, I'm going to work on shooting 29 hours a day, 20 days a week, because mathematically that's not even possible, right? So don't let them say things that are impossible, that you know they won't be able to stay true to. Help them come up with a plan that's simple enough for them to do and have a checklist where they can do it whenever they say they're going to do it. There's a player that went on to play at a very high-level school, played in a couple Final Fours. When this player, he's still a Division I basketball player, when he was in high school, he had a plan, and he was a very good player, but a local newspaper had an article that had a picture in it of his bathroom mirror. And his bathroom mirror, there was goals, there was plans, his vision was spelled out. And I don't know if it was a Sharpie, I don't know if it was a dry erase marker, I don't know if his mom and dad had to go clean that up afterward, but he had a plan. So this plan that he had talked about, I want to win section, I want to try to win a state championship, I want to be first team all area, there was individual goals, there was team goals. It was beautiful, it's fantastic. It's what every kid should do so you can learn cause and effect because you get what you put in. So back to your son or daughter, as they're making this plan, make sure they have it written out somewhere where they can see it. Is it on their refrigerator? Is it on their bedroom door? Is it on the mirror in their bathroom? They need to see it. They need to be reminded of it because there's a countdown. The days are going to tick by between today and next year's trials. So they have to do something. They have to follow that plan. So it's important that you come up with a really good plan. And if you have questions about that plan, comment below. If you'd rather not comment below because you don't want your son or daughter to be embarrassed about whatever their situation was, send us a message through the website. Just go to thescoringfactory.com, click on Contact Us, send us a message, and we'll reply to each and every one. Because sometimes it's not easy if you didn't play basketball to know what they need. So we can help you with some drills and some advice and some guidance. So now that they have this plan, they have to stay focused. They have to stay consistent. They have to embrace the grind. And if you're, and I mean this with all due respect, if you're the type of person, mom and dad, if you're the type of person that maybe plays more video games than you should, isn't super committed to things, if you're the type of person that isn't setting a great example, then perhaps you need to make some improvements as well to be a good role model for them, because it's going to be very difficult for you to tell them, hey, buddy, you got to go run. You got to sprint up these hills. You got to jump steps. You got to jump rope. You got to shoot. If you're telling them they got to do all this stuff and you can't remember the last time you ran a lap or did a push up, then it's going to be hard for them not to see you as being a hypocrite. And they might not even know that word, but you don't want them to look at you as being a hypocrite. So this might be a beautiful opportunity for you, mom and dad, to kind of re-engage and reinvigorate and find a newfound passion for exercise and fitness and making some really good choices. Choices that they see, choices that maybe you guys can do together, whether that's hiking or swimming or hustling after rebounds when you're in the driveway and they're shooting. So maybe this could be a beautiful thing for you as a family where everybody kind of has a chance to improve. And I realize that's a touchy subject, but you don't want to be a hypocrite and tell your child they have to work hard if you know when you look in the mirror, you're not working as hard in your fitness as you could. We all need to do a better job of that. So as they learn to embrace the grind, it's okay if they get away from their buddies a little bit because they're not going to be with their buddies on that team because they didn't make the team. So they're not going to be sitting on the bench. They're not going to be in those practices. They're not going to have the chance to grow with them. And do they want to grow with them? Do they want to be at the same exact level? Do they want to wait until next year and those kids have improved 3% and your son or daughter's improved 0? No. If those other kids are improving at 3% right now, your son or daughter who didn't make the team has to improve at a higher rate. So they're going to have to get away from their buddies a little bit. That doesn't mean in school to avoid them in the hallways. That doesn't mean that. But when those kids are in practices, your son or daughter has to invest that time into getting work in to improve. So they're going to be away a little bit. And there's some pretty cool movies out there, like Rocky and a bunch of other movies where you see people working hard, trying to overcome obstacles, and there's some cool, catchy music that's motivational in the background. This can be their Rocky story, where they come out of nowhere and shock the world. But know this and remind yourself, it's okay to be angry. It's okay for them to be angry. Emotions are good, but you have to do something about it. So it's not okay to be sad, to cry, to need a Kleenex, to sit there, to cuddle up in a fetal position and cry and say, woe is me, and do nothing about it until the next season. That's not going to help you. It's also not going to help you to get really angry and punch a wall and break your fist. That's not going to help you either. So somewhere in between there, you have to have emotion, but you have to channel that emotion and you have to do something about it. Everybody knows the Michael Jordan story where he got cut in high school. If not, Google it. But arguably the greatest player to ever put on a pair of basketball shoes, he got cut. So at some point in time, he wasn't good enough for the team. He just wasn't good enough. So the coach said, no, you're not going to make this team. Go practice. And it worked. And if you don't know who Michael Jordan is, then you have a lot of research to do. So it's not about falling down. It's about getting up. And once again, these are great life lessons. Everybody's going to fall down. Everybody's going to get knocked down. Everybody's going to have adversity and things that happen to them that they don't want, that aren't comfortable, that aren't easy. Do you get back up? Do you fight back? So get stronger, get smarter, become more skilled. That's what should come out of your mouth as a mom or dad to your child. Help them emotionally, get them to a good state, make sure they're ready, make sure they have a plan, and remind them as often as possible without being a nag, but remind them and always come back to, how did it make you feel when you got cut? Remind them. It didn't feel good, right? So we want to change that. So remind them, get stronger, get smarter, become more skilled. Let's work. There's lots of information out there for free. Tons of drills, tons of exercises. All you have to do is go on YouTube and you'll find all kinds of good information for them to imitate, copy, repeat, emulate. But the key is that they need sweat equity, quote unquote, sweat equity. They have to work, they have to grind, and they have to embrace it. Like the famous saying, you are what you eat. We are what we do repeatedly. So whatever habits they have are shaping them. So you want them to have really good habits. You want them to get used to working hard, get used to practicing, get used to dribbling, get used to shooting, get used to running. We are what we repeatedly do. So make great habits. It'd be great if they wore out their basketball shoes and you had to buy them new shoes because they were in the driveway so much. It'd be great if they made you buy them a new net in the driveway, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be great if they shot so much that the ball was worn down, that you had to go buy a new net, I'm sure you would embrace that. I'm sure you'd be super happy if that was the case. And maybe they need some type of reward, just like the idiom of holding a carrot in front of a horse in order to get the horse to move. Maybe they need some type of something to kind of stimulate them wanting this more. Maybe, hey, buddy, I'm going to go out there and shoot with you every day. Once we get to 1,000 makes, we're going to go do this. And I don't know if this means going to Disneyland or Kennywood. I don't know if this means we're going to go to a movie. I don't know if this means then I'll buy you this toy that you wanted. Maybe they need some type of prize to help them want to go out and work even more. That's for you to figure out with your child because they're all wired very differently. What will motivate them? Maybe they need some extra motivation. If that's the case, give it to them. And speaking of motivation, them getting cut should be the best fuel known to mankind in order to constantly remind them to work harder, to come back stronger, because they don't want to have that feeling ever again. So use that. Let them use that. They know they got cut. Let them use that as fuel. And that will be their best motivation there is. It's also a good opportunity to talk to them about your own past failures and how it shaped you. Some things that happened in your life. Maybe you got cut from a team at some point in time. Maybe you tripped and fell down and people laughed. Maybe you got up to give a speech and you stuttered one time. Maybe your first test, you got a D and that motivated you and reminded you that you need to go home and do all of your homework or read the book all the way through to make sure you do better on the next test. Talk to them about your failures and how you've learned from it. Sometimes it's important to turn the TV off, to set aside the electronic devices and have real conversations. Help them handle these emotions, but make sure they use actions, quote unquote, actions. Make sure they're doing something about this. And on that plan, on the very bottom, write down the tryout date for next season and let them cross off the days like it's a year-long advent calendar and they're just getting closer and closer and closer to the best prize. I guarantee you that if they do these things, if they have an action plan, a plan of attack, I guarantee you they'll do better next year. And most importantly, they'll learn countless valuable life lessons through the process. Will this help them be Michael Jordan? No, but it'll help them be the best that they can possibly be. That's the most important thing. So stay positive and work. As parents, stay positive and get them to work. Even if it means beating your friends. And tell them, buddy, next year you're going to have to beat some of your friends. Because that's also an important life lesson. Back to what we discussed earlier, sometimes there's only a certain number of spots in life. So if there's 10 openings and there's 30 people that are trying to get one of them, and they're all friends, all 30 people are friends, but there's only 10 openings for this really good job. Whoever's able to compete against their friends and set that aside for a little bit, that's who's most likely going to get the job. So another important life lesson. Subscribe, comment, share. It's okay if your child got cut, but help them so they come back stronger. Any questions, any thoughts, any ideas? Let us know. We want to help. Come get some.